Hello and welcome to The Inquisitive Crafter. I'm Katrina Stewart from Crafty Jacks, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my recent makes. Now, if you've been following our channel for a while, you know that I usually share tips and tutorials with you, but we've had a lot of requests for me to share a little bit more about what I'm working on, my inspiration, those sorts of things, so you'll start to see a few more videos like this cropping up from time to time. This is a recent skein of Handspun that I've done. It was a birthday present for my husband Eric, who also happens to be a knitter. He learned when he was a teenager, he decided that his grandma, who he had a really special relationship with, if he didn't learn from her, that art was going to be lost with her when she passed away. And so he wanted to be able to carry it on to future generations. And now both our girls knit, as well as myself and my husband, and so it's kind of fun to see those traditions carried on through the generations. So this is a braid of what was referred to from the dyer, which is Hopkins Fiber Studio, as an oops Polworth. And the reason is she'd ordered Polworth from the mill, but what she got was not Polworth. So I'm not 100% sure of what type of wool this is. I suspect, just based on its feel, that it's probably Corriedale or something like that. But it was a lovely spin. It was beautifully dyed, and Eric had certain requests for this braid when he saw it. And when I opened it up, it was sort of randomly dyed, and so those requests couldn't be fulfilled. And so I just sort of went with the random and spun it so that all the colors sort of mixed together and created this really lovely marled yarn. And yeah, so when I spin for a specific weight, I like to take my end wraps per inch and multiply it by the number of plies so that I can figure out what I need to spin my singles at. I use a Sukaplaki control card to figure that out. And so if I want a finished wraps per inch of say 10, I will spin my singles at 30 if I'm doing a 3-ply. So I just take whatever number I want as the finished and multiply it by the number of plies, and that gives me how thin I need to spin my singles. So that is that spin. And next up is this stack of tea towels. So these tea towels were the last project to come off of my Cherryville loom. Now I felt very lucky to have been gifted that loom to begin with, because I would have never started a weaving journey without it. And so when I had the opportunity to find a new to me used Louette spring for an amazing deal, it needs a little bit of love still, but it's not quite up and running because it has a little bit of rust and stuff that I need to clean off. I decided that I would pass on the Cherryville to somebody else who was in the similar position to me. And so I was so delighted to be able to pass that loom on to someone else and give them a start in weaving as well. So this is my very last project from that loom, and I've already got plans for a set of tea towels to go on my spring as soon as it's up and running. I just find tea towels to be a really simple way to play with color, because honestly, if you make a mistake or you find something that you don't like, it's a tea towel. And so it's just for drying dishes. And in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter if they're perfect? And so that's what I love about weaving tea towels. And so when I wind my warp, one of the tips that I was given when I first started weaving was to hold two similar colors together, one sort of more of a warm tone and one more of a cool tone, and you get sort of an easier time mixing in other colors, because the cool tones work with the cool tone in your warp, as well as the warm tones working with the warm tones. So that's just one of the things that I like to do. So in this case, like each of these stripes of color in the warp, so like the purple, the yellow, the burgundy, the orange, and the rust, all had two different colors of those in the warp. So with the first two tea towels, what I like to do is weave my tea towels in pairs that are sort of matching but not really matching. And so with this first set, I took one set of the two colors that I used for the warp, and I used them for the weft. And this one is the other set of colors. And so you can see that they're just slightly different from each other. Like if I hold these two purples up to each other, you may not be able to tell on the video, but this one is a little bit darker and this one is a little bit lighter. And it's just from the way that the tea towels, the warp and the weft intermingle with each other. So that is the first set. And then the next set, I decided that I would go a little bit off what I normally do. Now, normally I like to just use the warp colors in my weft and play with those, but I figured if I'm playing with color, I might as well play with color. And so for this one, I used a gray, and then I used some blue, a lovely bright turquoise. I did use the purple and burgundy from the warp, and then I used a hot pink and a pale pink, and then some more gray. And I really like the effect of that. The pink, especially the hot pink, really sort of pops all the colors. So that was really fun. And then the same version of that, but with white and then different shades of purple. And so these two are again burgundy and purple that were in the warp, and then this is a really bright purple, and then this is a really pale purple, and then I used sort of a greeny or turquoise in between. And then this one, I really liked the effect of the hot pink and the brighter purple in it, and so I decided to play with that a little bit more, and I decided I wanted to try carrying colors and just doing a couple of picks of each color and carrying it to see how that worked in my weaving, and see if I could get the tension right and things like that. So that is what I did here, and then I used black as the sort of in-between bits. I really love weaving with black. It adds a deep richness to the colors and sort of enhances them, whereas this is the same effect, but instead of using the brighter colors, I use the pastels and I use them with white. And I find that white, it's very similar in spinning as well. White sort of softens the brightness of colors. And so it really sort of mutes out the brightness in the warp, and sort of gives the tea towel more of a pastel effect. And that was the same with the little mini stripes that I was practicing. It's 2 picks of a pale pink and 2 picks of a pale purple. And so it's really kind of interesting to see how the colors that you choose for your warp affect your weft. And then the last 2 are probably my favorites. And so when I first started weaving, I always had these extra bobbins, and with my first set of tea towels, I just cut them off, but there's always a little bit of extra. I always allow a little bit of extra in my warp. And so I started weaving that little bit of extra before cutting it off, and just using up whatever I had left on bobbins and just weaving them randomly. And I thought it would be fun to do full tea towels that way. And so the last 2 tea towels in my set were done just randomly, and just putting all of my spare bobbins into a bag and pulling them out at random, not really paying any attention to colors or orders or anything like that. Sometimes I'd weave 2 or 3 picks, and sometimes I'd weave more. But overall, I was really delighted with how these 2 turned out. They're really fun, really vibrant. The warp definitely gets lost in these. You don't notice the warp stripes nearly as much as you do when the colors sort of match up. But yeah, those are the last 2 in this set. So those are my recent projects. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have questions that you would like us to ask in one of our tips videos, please send your questions to ask@craftyjacks.ca. And like I said at the start, if you would like to see more content like this, please let me know in the comments below. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.